Hello, everybody. Good evening.
Hello.
Hello. How's everybody doing? Is everybody good? How are you doing, Greg?
I'm doing all right. I am on the road,
Yeah.
but I stopped because I didn't want to miss a stream, and so here I am
Yeah. So
driving in my car.
Greg's on
I'm
LT.
obviously stopped at the side of the road, just so you're aware.
Yeah.
That's
There's
why the background's not moving.
there's buildings for reference. They're stationary. It's not a cardboard set behind his
Yeah,
car
yeah,
or green
yeah.
screen. Right. Right.
And I had no internet before I got to where I am now. So.
But there you go. So thanks everybody for coming on in and joining again. Uh, Shout out to we got Ben, Dom, HFR, Stig, and I saw Dom too in there. So hello and
Hi, everybody.
hello
I can't
hello.
see the chat because
He's on his
my
cell
phone's
phone.
the only device I have,
If you
and so
notice a fall towards the floor, he apologizes. Before,
I got it propped pretty
there
solid.
you
I
go.
think we're good.
So before we get too far into it, just shout out, thanks to our Patreons, Health Johnson for being way up there on the top at the tree support, and everybody else on the list here. You guys are awesome. You make some of the stuff we do possible. So thank you for hanging out with us
And
and supporting.
and didn't we not just get a new one too?
Maybe I'll have to check the list. If we miss
Yeah,
somebody, I'm gonna say who you are, but I'm checking the list. Um,
maybe we already added them last
I
week.
think we did, but I'll look. I will look. Any rate, um,
I think it was Vince, wasn't it?
well, Vince was there, but he's on the list. Any rate,
Okay.
we'll
All right.
we'll check it out. We'll check it out. We'll make sure. Um, but welcome. So there's some stuff that happened in the last week for us, anyway. And some of it was aggravating. Some of it was less aggravating. And one of the things that happened like almost yesterday was really aggravating because we have just compiled some firmware.
I got my spider board in. And so I went on and I downloaded the latest version of Marlin,
Hmm.
and that jinxed myself, I
You
think,
did, yeah.
because David tells me today that there's a new version of Marlin.
Yeah, right. Like we wanted to talk about it so bad, but here it is. Marlin 2.0.9 is released, and it's
It's
in the latest release on their website here again. Um, they almost need to go to like this is the stable nightly release, and this is the beta nightly release. There's so many new versions popping up.
there's, yeah, no kidding. Well, and I just downloaded the what 2.8.2,
Yeah.
even though the config still says 2.8.1, and I got it all going and compiled it because Vince was saying that he was having problems compiling it. So I figured I'm going to get the latest version and try it on the board.
Yeah.
And and I had a couple of problems, but that was just because I didn't select the board environment the first time.
Mm.
And then once I set the board environment, it compiled just fine.
Yeah, and
And
that's they're even changing that a bit. They're making it simpler, I guess, in the any
it's
file.
different.
Yeah, I don't know. It's the same amount of steps. You just use different verbiage. So
What would be nice is if it automatically knew from your board
Mhm.
selection that you
Yep.
made in the config file that you want to compile
Mhm.
that with the you know the ini file.
Well, and they
The
do
project.
they do have a tool for that. It's that auto build. It works now.
Yeah,
Works
I
pretty
know.
good. But Ben says he's playing with the Dwin DJs screen. How is it? Is the screen okay? I have
Is that the one that's horizontal?
yeah. It's and it is like all the other D1 screens. It's kind of like the one. It's the newer version of
It's
kind of
like
like
the
the Ender
Ender.
3
It's like the
V2.
Ender 2.
Yeah. But,
Yeah,
oh yeah, and
V2.
Ben's playing with that Panda Pi. I've been actually looking at it this week too and thinking maybe I'll grab one. It looks like it's a pretty good little board.
Yeah.
The Marlin changes this week though are slightly superficial, but they are a step forward.
But they're harmonizing, shall we say?
Yeah, they get together with RepRap firmware. So in RepRap firmware, when you have more than the normal axes on your printer, you end up with UVW. And so it goes XYZ, UVW. Now Marlin has aligned themselves with that naming.
Isn't it XYZAB UAW?
XYZ UVW.
Oh, see, because RepRap adds an A and a B too.
Yeah, and I think they don't do that in here because they still assume, for the most part, Marlin is going to have an E1, E2 as well. So I think that's kind of where they're getting at, is that there's extruders involved. But they did add that, and then they went in and added actually baud rate support for some TMC drivers, so you can actually get around some of the screen issues. And
I like that they've expanded it, because in 2.8.2 and 1, I think, both of them, or 2.8 in general, they added the baud rate for the individual COM ports and added a third COM port that you could adjust the baud rate for. Pardon me. So that was nice. I like that a lot. But it's nice to see that they're thinking of all the communications, because a lot of them were set up so that the communication was general wide board, whatever you set was everywhere. Whereas you didn't necessarily, you may wanted 57.6 or whatever, or something other than the one that was communicating with your screen. So
right, yeah, and doing that, it makes it more harmonious amongst all the hardware, because everything nowadays wants to have its own little microprocessor. And
well, and I don't know if that'll help with maybe some CAN bus stuff later on.
Well,
or
it
something
might,
like that,
because you need bandwidth to do it all, and if you can tell it kind of how fast to run, you can actually get some stuff back. There's some other features that are just maybe small features, you could say. They've added dual steppers for a single extruder, so you can do mixing and stuff now. And they've also added a redundant part cooling fan. So if you were there were people before that were running the dual cooling systems, and you'd have to share the same port, but now you can port it out and do it separately.
Cool.
The one that gets Greg in the update is, we said it last time, and if you guys are keen, you might notice, but remember last time we were talking about Marlin, and we were talking about how it supported the new Octopus board. Remember that last week? It supports the new Octopus board again. So the Octopus version 1.1 is out. Hey. And
right, and I don't even, and mine's still stuck in Calgary. They sent it to the wrong address, so I don't even know which version I got.
Yeah, I think Raymond's enjoying it up there then.
I think so.
And then again, there's some screen improvements, there's some small optimizations, just, it's almost like a build release, like a build fix release, I should say, but there are some stuff that you can tweak. There are also new screens you can play with, and some of the libraries like the U8 glib and that stuff got a little more robust. So if you are
and they've been evolving that, so
and I think that's why we're seeing so many little releases. And if you are building Marlin like new, just go straight to the 2.0.9.
Yeah, and then that'll force the 9.1 to come out next week.
The day after, right? Yeah, the DON tools, they're a little different. Like the like Big Tree Tech, when you look at their screens and like the other stuff, it the compiling it is awful familiar to Marlin. But the D-Wins have their own. It's a whole new tool set you get to learn. And you know, I have kind of steered clear of them for that reason. Partly because I don't use screens anyway.
Well, the first few ones that came out were just janky in the way you had to update them.
Yeah.
But I think now that they've kind of incorporated it into Marlin, the support for them, that should help. But
yeah, a little
I still don't know if that generates, when you set it up, if that generates a separate screen firmware file that you can upload, or if you still have to generate something with the DWIN separately.
So in theory, you can do both, but like I know there is the problem with the bootloaders still on the. I'm gonna get the board number wrong. But the newest rendition of the Creality board and the one before it, I think we're on like 2.7 and 744, something like that. 44. I honestly forget. But those two new boards, if you name the firmware the same, you'd brick the screen-ish. It wouldn't actually brick it, but it would just not work. And then
you have to change the name to something different.
And
you flashed.
Quite a few people were caught off guard by that gotcha. So now the circling back a little, I guess a little bit, but Greg built his CNC last Friday. Was it Friday?
Yeah, I was working on it. I got it, and it was I don't know if it was last Friday, but it was whatever the rainy day was where I can work on my trailer.
Yeah, that one. I think it was Friday. It might have been Thursday. But like describe. So pretend you're a brand new user that had no idea what you were doing. Describe the build process, right? Like
the build process wasn't too bad. Like you take it out of the box, the upper gantry is actually already pre-assembled, so you just have to drop it on, but you have to first kind of tighten some bolts and whatnot, because your main base frame is already together. But I wanted to make sure that everything moves, so I was trying to move it has two Ys on it, and so I was moving the one, no problem. The other one was like jam solid. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I just got this. And so I was like just livid. And so I finally, I called David. I'm like, David, what's happening? And he's like, did you try this? I'm like, no. And so basically the way they do it is they have a anti-backlash nut and a regular nut on either side of the one wide gantry, and they were tightened down and torqued down, but the one was twisted slightly, so it was jamming into the side of the extrusion. So I literally just basically had to loosen all four of those, and it popped back into alignment, and I was able to move it. So
all right. Thanks, Stig, for that coffee money. We will use it very well. Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you, Stig. So
yeah, that happened to my CNC too. So that's why I was like, did you try this?
Yeah, and it was so frustrating because it was. But then I also found a stripped Allen hole on it. So like on one of the screws. So that's like, and it was in the same gantry. I'm like, no. But I got it all set up. Got it to the point I could power it on, but never jogged it, never did anything else, and it's been sitting there because I had to work on my trailer, and the offline controller wasn't there yet, and I didn't have my computer set up that I'm going to kind of control it with the Candle software. Right. So it's like it's sitting there teasing me, and then I had to go to pieces. So I'm on the road.
No, you're in a mystery location, darn it.
I'm in an undisclosed parking lot with a girl with pigtails and red hair.
Your wife's gonna be jealous because she's a redhead too, I assume. Um, so Ben makes a very good, interesting point, and I see this all the time in the community forums out there. Ben comments, if you're a brand new user, you have no business updating firmware. And I agree completely with that statement. I don't agree. You do have business in investigating how to upgrade your firmware, but you should not, like, the first thing you do when you get a printer or a CNC mill is just turn it on, make sure all the parts move, and then start printing with it. Use the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like,
get some legs under you, get some used to it. Now, do your research. If there is a glaring flaw and it doesn't have some safety feature or whatnot that is absolutely necessary to operation, and it was glaringly missed, yes, update your firmware.
well, and there are those things, right? Like the Tronxy came out with that Core XY-ish thing, and they did not enable the thermal runaway, and that caused some issues for it almost started a fire for Angus there at Maker's Muse, I think is his channel there, but that was interesting.
And thankfully, I would say that the market for 3D printers has matured enough that most, I'm not going to say all, most have Marlin 2 or newer on it, which had thermal runaway enabled by default.
Yeah.
So unless they forcefully or deliberately turned it off before compiling the firmware, it should be on.
Yeah.
And you should always check, right? Because even though it should be on, you don't know for sure until you test it.
Yeah, and it's the Creality firmware is getting to the point where at least it's not gonna like burn your house down, because thermal runaway's been on them after the revision they made in the CR10S series to turn it on. Stig makes a point that if you have a Creality printer, you should probably update it no matter your skill level. On the new controllers, if you're just downloading the firmware from the website, but chances are you're running the most current version anyway, or one revision behind, and at least you can get going with it.
I would agree with that because, like, if you look at we've mentioned this before. We run some workshops for some of the teachers and stuff in our school district, and the current batch that we did the workshop with were Ender 3 V2s. So they got the newer boards and silent steppers and whatnot. And I would say that you don't need to run out and update that one. That one, unless you want, a BL Touch or this and that, okay, then fine. But if you're just using it stock right now, I don't think there's any reason to run out and actually update that.
Yeah, like, it's gonna be safe now. Like, 90% of us I see in the channel right now, like, updating the firmware, not an issue. Most of us understand the very basics of the firmware process. By the way, Greg, Ben comments your RV. He says it looks like you're making pretty good progress on your RV, Greg. And he is.
Thanks, Ben. And I got the flooring in, and last night, just before I kind of packed up, I actually reassembled the queen bed, because that's the bedroom in the RV that I've been renovating, and so it's now looks like a bedroom.
Looks like a bedroom, can hold water.
It can, yeah.
And thankfully the water is actually coming from the reservoir, not the ceiling.
Yeah,
now, right?
and it keeps water out too.
There you go. Ben makes a comment. You don't buy Tronxy and you don't buy ANET. I actually have a few friends that own Tronxy, and they've had okay luck, but neither of them, I should put a pin in that, neither of those machines were perfect when they came. Like, the
Well,
bed needed to
neither was the ANET, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, my very first printer was an ANET,
Mm-hmm.
AA. And would I go out and buy a brand new one? Was it a great first printer to learn the ins and outs on what not to do and what to do?
And you don't buy TiVo Homer. See, and I've
Yeah.
used the little monster with great success too. But again, none of those were beginner machines. Like the Tronxy ones, we had to resolder the bed because it just came unsoldered. Like the
Yeah.
solder, it just
Well,
wasn't there, right? And the
before I even turned on the ANET printer, I did my research and I was like, yeah, this power supply is going. I'm checking the bed wires, and I did my due
Mhm.
diligence and I upgraded the power supply to a better power
Yep.
supply, more reliable, and so any printer you can be made safe,
Yep.
but a newbie that doesn't know any better, unfortunately, if they got that printer,
Yeah.
I mean that's the issue, right? And
Mhm.
that's why hopefully people aren't buying the older
Yeah.
printers.
And like the biggest problem with TiVo and Homer, like, is just the way they managed that whole thing. The little monster was like, it was a bear to build, but it was an okay Delta. Now, one thing that weird, it just said chat disconnected. Please wait while we reconnect you. Stream says good, so I'm going to keep talking.
All right.
The one thing that I would say, and it's a sentiment that I've actually always held when it comes to 3D printing and 3D printers in general, is if you want a 3D printer and you know relatively what the what your specifications, like how big do you want to print,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. I think once you decide that, you should stick with a brand that is semi trustworthy, or at least the progenitor of the design that you're using. So when
I think to add to
yeah,
that, like if you look for the more popular brands,
yep.
that has a larger community for support.
Mm-hmm. And so so like if people ask like what brand of printer, would I recommend and would I stand behind, it's gonna be like the Creality stuff. And that's not just to say that I don't like my other printers. I think the like I like the Anycubic product as well. I think both of them have very solid-ish support. The Creality
Yeah.
printers do have a larger community, I think, behind them, and Greg and I are part of that community and Anycubic's
Yeah.
community. There is a problem. I'll circle back to that in a second, but there is a problem when you're looking at community support, and that's the argument for printers like Prusa printer, where when you buy the Prusa printer, you get 24-hour person on the phone support. Like,
Yeah.
what
But
brand
that's also
is
why
the
they
printer
cost
that
3 times as much.
what brand is that printer that threw the bread across the room? Yeah, don't buy Big Tree Tech printers.
Yeah.
That was the
Yeah.
legend. And yeah, I honestly, like, unless
Is
you're
that Ray asking?
no, that was that's Stig. Ray's not in the room yet.
That's the
I'm watching for him, but he's not here yet.
yeah. Yeah, that's the one that spends time in the corner.
Actually, it's not even in the house anymore. It's thinking about its life in a box in the garage now. The
Hopefully it's printing parts for the
yeah,
Laurel.
Lauren, it actually printed the last set okay, so it's stuck. So apparently printing when it's 36 out is the right choice.
So there you go.
The printer that I've been most impressed with lately is the Anycubic Viper, and I saw that printer as well, Ben. I don't have it, but I will say this about it, and I think Greg probably agree, and I think even Ben might agree.
It reminds me of the CR6.
Right. That's exactly the price point it's going for. It's like a CR6, but the Anycubic label, and there's nothing wrong with that. if
It uses a similar bed probing technique, and then
yeah, they tweaked it like half a millimeter and call it different. If I had room for another one, I would bring that one home in a heartbeat. I think it would be a good addition. But again, like when we look at brands like Anycubic, they kind of started the home resin thing, and then you had Elegoo come in behind them. Creality made good, accessible, metal framed i3 Mendelish,
yeah,
printers, and they made them
yeah,
at a price that was attractive to get people in, and in
yeah.
for the credit of
And
them, and
reliable,
reliable.
right?
Granted, their original printers, just like most printers back when we had Marlin 1.8, 1.7, even back to
1.1.
1.6, right? Like they didn't have safety features. It was just something that wasn't in the firmware. And then eventually that
I
developed, right?
and and people didn't understand the need for that at the time because the community was smaller,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when Marlin realized that if the manufacturers aren't going to try to implement it, they need to make it easy for them to just turn it on.
Yeah.
So
And I mean, it's
you
just a
look at
calculation, right? Like it's literally a line of code that says if temperature
yep,
differs by this much for this long, thermal
freak
runaway.
out, shut
Yeah.
off.
And there's been plenty of times, especially on the SX4 printer. So that's the big Core XY that I got. But like that printer, I notoriously forget to turn on the second power supply when I start printing. So the bed never heats up, and then like you'll be like upstairs and you can hear like through the floor, and I'm like, oh yeah, I did that again.
I mean, there's no reason why we can't have just a single power switch that turns on both of them.
No, I really should just like just make them share one outlet, because those smart the one smart plugs that they are plugged in are rated at 1500 watts, and that printer at peak
Yeah,
doesn't draw that. So it's a
easy fix.
easy fix. Yeah, I just need to like crawl under the desk, which is not easy.
That's difficult.
No, it's in the corner. Stephen Holiday says hi. Well, hello back.
Hey, hey, Steve. Long time no talk. It's been like a year and a half, and we haven't been able to do movie nights or anything because we all have to isolate and everything. So, hey, Stevie.
we're all hanging out in COVID. Although my 5G, Greg, is at the maximum level now. I've achieved maximum 5G. We'll see if it actually works on Monday, right?
That's his COVID
yeah,
level.
yeah, COVID vaccination
Protection level.
Yeah. And by the way, totally your choice, not an argument we're getting into. Okay. I do want to circle back a bit onto Jason with Greg's CNC machine. We were talking about it, and then we went,
Yep.
he has the Pro. So just so y'all know, his is the Pro Ver XL 4030. So it's a bit bigger,
Yes.
and has a bigger spindle, and
Bigger stepper. So it's just a slightly, it's the same but different.
right. And so like mine is the Pro Ver 3018, and it's a little bit different on the frame, but that's how like it was like, oh yeah, we tried this, because like they're in the same series.
Yours, the bed moves.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas mine, it has two steppers on the Y gantry and moves the whole thing back and forth. So it's more similar to a traditional kind of commercial CNC, shall we say, than the smaller ones, which I'm sure they could have done it that way on yours too, but they just chose not
I think
to,
so.
right? I think it was. Yeah.
But you know what? Like it's worked fine. It's just it was the same idea. Those linear, like the guide for the X were just a little off. Happy birthday, Ray. Ray's here. Happy birthday.
Hey Ray, yeah, I wished him a happy birthday on Facebook earlier.
Right.
So.
Now we said it in person though. It makes it like official.
Happy birthday. And send me
Yeah.
my
Did you?
my octopus, that because the Canada Post lost it in Calgary
Are
somewhere.
you holding
So
Greg's
I'm
print?
sure they must have sent it to you.
It's got to be in Calgary. Ben has the comment. Crowley exploded with the Ender 3 thanks to Naomi Wu. Naomi Wu was a huge part in the Ender 3 success because of the work she did, even to get it open sourced. Like those step
That's true.
files on the Ender 3 made modding it child's play.
Super easy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everybody
it's really
could
nice
mod
to
it.
be able to import your model into whatever your favorite CAD program is, and then start building your
Right?
mod right off of the printer. So nice.
And her work on the
Yeah.
Ender 3 actually made it really to mod any of the printers in the same style of the Ender 3.
Yeah.
So like the
Yeah.
Legend and all those.
And I still don't think the company quite gets open sourcing, because then there's other ones that they just haven't, done anything with, and they haven't. And then it still bugs me where even like this printer, or the CNC that I have, it's using Gerbil, right? Which hasn't been updated in a long time, but technically you should be releasing the source code for the Gerbil, so someone could download it if they needed to for the config you did, just like in Marlin and whatnot. But it's very common, and this is a pet peeve of mine, and I hate to say it, Chinese companies specifically.
Whoa.
Sorry to call Creality and send whatever, but they don't release they'll sell you a printer with Marlin on it, but they don't always release the code. They'll
It's true,
give you the firmware bin, and that bugs me when they should release the code. It's not secret.
No, and they didn't build it, right?
Right. So I mean, if there's other patents on there that you don't want people to know about, that's fine, but the code isn't. Like the control code, you should be able to release. So if I need to tweak something, I can. And that's a pet peeve. There's my rant.
Yep. No, and I can get behind that pet peeve, for sure. Like I ran into that problem with, and it wasn't even that problem, but like I wanted the source code for the SX4, and since it was Marlin, all I did was email the company, and they're like, "Yeah, here you go, whatever." Right.
And I'm thinking of doing that because they say do not update the firmware on this controller.
Yeah.
I was doing a little research on the Gerbil controller, and it's actually quite a nice controller. I couldn't actually find the make of it, but it is the same one that's in the it's a Fox something Fox. There's another CNC Fox. I want to say Fox Clever, but that's not right. It's Fox.
Oh yeah, I'll look it up for you.
Anyway, the they have a 4040
Fox
CNC.
Alien.
Fox Alien.
Yeah.
There you go. So Fox Alien, like they have a different case and whatnot. Almost basically the same printer, almost, but the slightly different. Like they just changed the gantry and some of the little bits, but the controllers are identical in them. So, and I tried to find who makes it just to find out if it was like, for example, Mach 3 compatible.
Right. And there is actually a new version of Gerbil out it's called Gerbil LPC. And it is for the new controllers. So they have like if you go to the original Gerbil site, it is dead. They forked it and it's moved. But Ben has another comment here. Now, if only they would honor the GPL, and GPL is, I believe, General Public License is the acronym. And you're absolutely correct, Ben. The GPL, although it can be, the GPL can kind of live in the same vein as we lost Greg, so I'm going to switch to my screen for a minute, y'all. You got to deal with me. The GPL is one of those things where it deserves respect, and it kind of falls in the same vein as copyright, patent, and and open source. Like all of these things get kind of confused and smashed together. One of the buzz things going around right now on lots of the forums is like our patent systems are patent systems something that are like, I wouldn't say. One of the videos I've seen is patents are evil. The other one I saw was patents why they keep us in the dark ages. Um, I
Am I
don't.
back?
You are back. Greg's back.
Okay,
I
good.
didn't put your face back
All
on
it
the
said,
screen.
all, all it said was poor connection quality. Phew.
Yeah, so you're back.
So sorry.
But um, just to circle back on like that, the patent thought, patents aren't bad because a company is doing work into producing a product. Now,
Mm.
I have a side topic I'm going to talk about in a second here, but let's use Mosquito as an example from like Slice Engineering. Like they do a lot of work on engineering and getting a design that works functionally for a specific purpose, and that whole piece is patentable. You can't
Yeah.
patent things like brakes on a car. That's you just can't patent them because
Well,
you can't.
unless you change something completely
Right.
on it or
But you
something,
can't
right?
patent the idea of something squishing to stop something else. Like, but Slice Engineering has done a really good job redesigning like how the heat break it and the copper heat block
Yeah.
work
Their
together.
whole
And
process.
so that's
Yeah.
kind of what they have patented. And before even like, I think when it first came out, it was patent pending. And I think they do have their patent
Yeah.
now. I think I'd have to double check, but as we all know, there was many
Many
knockoffs,
copy knockoffs. Yeah.
and that's kind of like the side topic. One of our thoughts on them was, are they as good? Does the knockoff actually work? And so I have a knockoff here that I've been printing with, but and I'm not saying the knockoffs are necessarily bad, but when they
I don't
get
think they're better.
no,
They're just,
I think
but they do similar function.
they're leeches,
Yeah.
right? Like
Absolutely.
they're using the idea
Predatorial
and bringing it
almost.
out, right? But
Yeah.
again, it's not like necessarily illegal, but like to bring something to market is a lot of money, and those patents help those companies. Even something patented could be considered open source, and open source is a topic that actually belongs in software development, not hardware.
Yeah.
Open source is
I think you're
weird.
right, like with that, because like, I mean, if you make something hardware, you want to recoup some of your R&D and whatnot, and you should have the right to do that.
Hmm.
Should you do it for perpetuity? No,
Well,
because I think
yeah.
it stifles innovation.
Hmm.
And because if you take into how long, what is it, Stratasys had the patents
Hmm.
on certain 3D printing things and whatever the other company
Yeah, and
was,
you just couldn't do
they,
it
and
because
right, and you weren't allowed to do it. um, and now look at the explosion and the the kind of the renaissance that has happened now that some of those patents. So I think the length of patents
yeah.
is part of the problem, and
But
maybe being able to extend patents is part of,
hmm
it's questionable to a certain point, but I understand the reason for it,
it
because you do need to get paid for the
right,
work you do
and there is a life
somehow.
cycle to a product, right? Like
Yeah.
a 5 year cycle to a product to recoup or to research, recoup, and grow is not unreasonable or heard of. But oh, by the way, I took a lot of economics and business. Too much of it, in fact. But like that's not unreasonable to recoup. But oh hey Pierre, welcome. Pierre's here.
Hey, Pierre.
Um, when we talk about like innovation in a field, we're hitting the other end of the wall right now. Let's all use our imaginations and everybody put an Ender 3 in your head. You got that picture of an Ender 3 in your head. Now put a picture of a CR6 in your head. Now put the Viper in your head. Now put the Legend in your head. Now
They all look the
they're
same.
all the same. So we're running into this problem where it's like, we hit that period where yes, we can make printers. Even a CR10 is just the big version. It was the progenitor to the Ender series.
Right.
So we're without those patents, there's very little motivation for companies to go, yeah, you know what, we're going to innovate on this and we're going to make a
Yeah.
product and keep
Yeah.
going. And I think we're kind of we came out of the dark ages, hooray. And now we're coming
I
into like,
I I think there's still room, especially with the open source community
mhm,
and the community we have here, to innovate more. Like
mhm,
Slice came out of this as an innovator, right?
mhm,
Because they rethought what was there,
yep,
right? Tesla rethought how electric car could be because EV1 wasn't successful,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
Because they gas companies didn't want it. So there's ways to develop a product and make it innovative and whatnot, or look at an existing
right,
product. Right now, they're in the copycat mode, and then once in a while, someone comes out with something that's, oh well, that's amazing. Like, you know, IDEX is interesting, right? And that sort of thing. And the adding the accelerometers to printers. So that's
mhm.
kind of you know getting
It's
there.
innovative.
Right.
Like one
More
example,
powerful.
like Bondtech.
Go ahead.
Think Bondtech.
Oh yeah,
But
absolutely.
that's an interesting one even then, right? Because that dual hob gear, that wasn't Bondtech's idea. They took it and used it in a way that was innovative for 3D printing,
That no one else did. Yeah.
right? Because that
And
was
so
originally
that's
like
the thing,
welding technology, and so you push the
right?
welding through the thing, right? So,
Right.
um,
And it's so look having a I think having a creative mind and looking at whether it's another industry and how can you incorporate that in, or I think at Tesla they call it first principles,
yeah,
like first, right, it's like how can you make this better but not more complex, right?
yeah,
Like what could you do to improve the overall, but
yep,
without change? And that's where I think the simplicity of like Slice
mm-hmm,
and their design
mm-hmm,
makes it innovative,
yep,
right? Or and other people like you know you see other companies doing that, but there's not enough of that yet. And I think the community hopefully will slowly kind of stew and spur some more creativity in that
yep.
respect.
And I mean, you look at like I mean, you have one. It'll come to me. That the LDO stepper motor thing you have, the
The
extruder
orbiter,
orbiter, like we're starting to
that
see,
was that was that was cool.
right,
You
and
know,
we're seeing more of that.
orbiter gears. Like,
The shirt,
you know,
I think
I
it's the
I didn't know
Sherpa.
enough. I didn't. Yeah, Sherpa is very similar.
Yeah,
I didn't know enough about how the gearing ratios work because I'm not a mechanical engineer. But now, once I learned about it, oh, well, that makes sense, right? And
yep,
there's lots of really innovative things and the guy open sourced that, so
mm-hmm,
now people are making money off of it, and
mm-hmm.
I hope he got something out of
I
it.
you know he probably, I'm sure because he cut a, if I remember correctly with that particular one, he cut a deal with a manufacturer to do it for him and with him. But one thing I'm gonna show my side topic here. It's one of the things that I was working on. I kind of mentioned it last week. We
I can't see it, so
I know I haven't showed it yet. I'll let you know when. Um, it,
okay, I'll react.
yeah. Whoa. So last week, I was talking about how my OCD was taking over because of the H2 on the Ender. It was not it. So the H2, I'm holding up a thing. Okay, hold on, wait. Okay, now react. Okay, good
Is that
job.
the H2?
No, it's the H2 mount. So this is an H2 mount that somebody made on Thingiverse. Actually, I found this one, which is it's halfway there. I'll give them. It's not a bad design at all. There are some things that I don't like about it, and that's this channel here. And I'll go into some of this stuff. And I could have fixed it, but it actually came off that printer, so that's why this piece is the this is the last one because
Decommissioned.
it's decommissioned, and I'm gonna show you hopefully what went on that printer through technology and cell phones and and NDI and lights on the phone and focusing. So just give me a second here. But I went with more of it's an all metal mosquito-ish kind of thing. And I'm going to tease some of the installation and post some stuff in the Discord for the Patreons here tonight. But let's see here if my thing will connect. Oh, come on. Play nice. I think. I think. Okay, let's just see if it works. Nope. That's a black screen with Greg's face. 1 second. Okay. All right. Well, my NDI is not turning on, guys. So technical difficulties with David and Greg. Do. 1 second. I'll get it. I turned it off and on again, Greg.
Okay.
So I went with a more stock setting, I guess you would call it, for the ender. I used it for all intents and purposes. It is a mosquito, but let me just yeah, it's the same size anyway. So I'm gonna okay, ready, Greg? Okay,
Ready.
Now react. Whoa! So this particular part here has a mini. There's a very, very small. Let's see if we can get in on that. Yeah, there it is. So it's a very small. Yeah, sorry, it froze again, but we'll leave it frozen for a second so you can enjoy that picture of it. So it's a very, very small mount for a mosquito hot end, and you can kind of see the ducting underneath. And like I said, I'm going to show all the parts for this on the Discord, so don't worry. But it's a stock hot end again. The BL Touch is on there. But if you want to talk light hot end, the heaviest thing on here is the motor.
I was very impressed when I was over there and you're showing me the
right.
Like it was like it yeah.
It is by far the
good setup.
So I didn't make it, and I'm going to show like kind of the steps I went through on the Discord to print it, to get it working. The actual hot end shroud there is called the Mini Me, and I just printed that Batman fan guard because it's Batman, and Greg suggested it. So
you like I know
right?
you like Batman.
I do. So it was a good choice. But you can see like when we were with that particular one, like I put the silent fan on that Ray recommended, and sorry Ray, I always forget the name of it.
It's the David.
It is, yeah. So the whole thing is called the David now. No, just kidding.
We had a back and forth because the mount and stuff that David got is what called the Mini Me, or something like that.
It
right?
is
and
the
so
Mini
I'm
Me.
like, it's the Mini David.
It's the Mini David.
It was a whole bit back and forth. You had to be there.
You did. Pierre asks in the Discord channel. He's just wondering what the progress on the Voron is and the SKR2. And the Voron parts are being printed still.
So
we had a
I've
little batch fail. So
4 of the Voron parts that David has printed, and I'm anxiously waiting for the rest because I really wanted to start assembling. But I need them to get the.
Yep.
I separated them into batches. So David has been spending his extra time in the garage getting them ready to be printed, and he's had most successes,
mostly
a couple of failures.
Yep. So like I would think that progress on that one could start being made. The parts will be finished in the next 2 weeks. Let's use that as a guesstimate, shall we? Okay, so the fan, I found it. I found the fan, y'all. It's an Orion 24 volt 4010 axial fan.
Yes.
And
David was so impressed. He said something I never thought I'd hear from him.
It was so quiet. So quiet.
Do you remember what you said?
I said a lot of things. Like I said, I wanted to buy another one.
Well, that, and you said it's quieter than Noctura.
It is actually, yes. I remember saying that, and it is quieter than Noctura, and it does move more air than the Noctura. And I know a lot of people look at CFMs and uh, it was a lot of people look at the CFM of the Noctua and go, you can't use that on a printer. It will just, you're going to clog your hot end. It'll never work. It can't cool fast enough. Spoiler alert, right? Like I've been using one for 3 years on my CR10S. And another one was on my second ender. They're great fans. But
and
Orion,
I had a couple too.
Yeah, I love this Orion. So if you guys are in the market, here I got the link.
Since we're talking fans, can I transition the topic a little bit, or you still want to finish a little bit on your cool?
I completely no. I think I'm good on the cooling because I'm gonna post the all the parts and stuff we used in the Discord chat. Yeah.
So on going back to the spider board, I had a really good look at it now that I've had it in my hands and flash firmware and whatnot. And I'm impressed at the number of additional power ports they give you and the flexibility on the power ports they give you. So they give you 3 adjustable fan speed ports that can be 24, 12, and 5, which is really nice. So it is adjustable. I don't think we knew that. We knew it on the Octopus, but we didn't know it on the Spider, right?
Yeah.
And then they give you 2 dedicated 12 volts and 2 dedicated 24 volt always on available to power whatever you need to.
Yep.
Then they give you a 12 24 or 12 5 volt 24 5. I think it's 24 5 volt, but it's no, it's 12 24 for, you can use it for either your LEDs, programmable RGB LEDs, or you can use it for fans, which is kind of nice. So you can have either 2 distinct LED strips, or you could have an additional 4 fans, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And then they give you another 4 fan ports, power ports, or whatever on it too. So like this thing has like cooling for days, or at least power available that you can do whatever you need to with. Which is really interesting.
My comment to Greg when he was like, look at all this stuff. I'm like, wow, you could use that as a fan controller for your SKR.
I said, we'll use the fans on this to cool the Octopus.
Yeah. I know we're getting close to the top of the hour too, guys, but remember, hit the like and share and subscribe and do the stuff.
Up, right?
Yeah.
And thanks again to all our Patreons.
Hold on, I don't got that up yet. Wait, I'll tell you.
If you guys
when.
aren't
okay, now.
And so if you guys aren't aware, which you probably are, most of you that are here, we do have a Patreon that helps us do some of the projects that we're doing and whatnot. And so we just want to thank everyone again who are our supporters. We have our Discord where you can join in and whatnot, and we post the info in there. And if you need help with something, like Vince was having problems with some firmware, and I know he's out on the road, so I don't even know if he's here tonight. But he had some compiling issues, and so now that I got my board, I was working on it just to make sure that I could do it so that I could give him some help. So we do that kind of stuff. So if you join us in Patreon, that'd be great. If you can't, that's all right too. Just the like and subscribe is a great help to our channel too. And on a different note, we have a podcast, don't we, David?
Best podcast in the world. We're going to try to have another episode out next week, maybe, because we figured out how to do it on the easies. It doesn't take us like 17 hours to edit it because I'm a freak and I don't like noise. Yeah. So check out the
So we
podcast.
do have,
That's 3D
yeah,
3D Make
and
It
again,
podcast, right? 3D Make It.
anywhere you go, our socials and GitHubs and everything is always 3D Make It. So if you need to find us, that's where you can find us.
Exactly. 3D Make
Yeah.
It. www.3dmakeit.ca. There's another one.
Yeah, and
Find
all
everything there.
our links are there, and we even have swag available.
We have.
If you,
Oh yeah, we do have swag.
we do. We have a Teespring
I
store.
always forget about that, guys.
We don't promote it lots.
No, but we have cool shirts. You should totally buy one.
It is available. So if you want a nerdy shirt, it's there. So.
Greg, I have to ask this on behalf of Pierre.
Yep.
Where are you installing the SKR2? What do you have a plan for that?
I do not have a plan for that yet. I just literally got all the steppers and everything for it, and my memory card came in because they don't ship with memory cards anymore, so I had to order some memory cards. So they just came in, so now I'll be able to compile it and power it up and whatnot. So I'm going to, I guess I'm going Marlin 2.9.
No, by the time you get there, it'll be like 3.7.
3.7. I don't know. But I will. I'm thinking I'm putting it in either the Ender or I'm going to put it in the the CR10. I'm not sure. One of those two.
Either one of those would be a good choice. So yeah, I guess the moral of that story too is it's going in. It just hasn't been.
I just got all
installed yet, right? Like it's just got in. So.
Well, it's one of those things. Like you get excited, you get all your stuff, and then there's no drivers. And then you wait for the drivers. You get the drivers. Oh, there's no.
See, whenever I ordered them, they all come in the box with the duck, and I'm happy. But
I got the duck.
Oh, as long as you get the duck. So but yeah, so that one's coming up. The next video release we will have is next week for the regular videos on the channel. And that one will be at least my side of the starting of the extruder videos. And spoiler alert, first one up is the H2 because it's the most freshest in my memory after taking
this. You like my reaction?
It was really good. It was really good. And the Emmy goes to so that'll be next week. If I find a spare moment, because I actually got to go to work after this for a bit here, but I may have time to just post edit some stuff. I really need to. Yeah. I need to find
and I've been neglecting my video duties due to the trailer construction and deadline on that. So I will attempt to rectify that and get some content out for you guys as soon as possible. So I apologize.
I just trolled the chat like I love to do all the time.
You can't see the chat.
I know, but it's my favorite thing to do because remember like the little buffering circle one that you can send?
Oh, yeah.
And everybody's like waiting for you to type something. Yeah, I did that.
That's it.
I did that at the workshop and everybody was like waiting for something for forever. And I'm like, no, that's it. That's the emoji. Anyway, I'm going to splash up this page one more time and say thank you to Helge Johnson for being tree supports. Thank you everybody else down here on the list. It's not that you're less important than Helge, but that's one of the perks of being up at tree supports.
And thanks for everyone for being in chat and participating today. And it's nice to see some people that haven't been in chat for a while. So that's great.
Yep.
And I guess, we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Same bat time, same bat channel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. You guys take care. Have a good one. Be safe out there. See y'all later.